So now I'm delighted to welcome not only a friend of DCB, but as I mentioned already, the gentleman who passed the baton over to me. And I'm sure many people who are watching online at the minute will, of course, know Fergus O'Carroll very, very well, but in various different ways, because the man is an absolute genius and talent in various different methods and practices. And one of those is obviously in French horn playing. So I want to just feature a little video for you, first of all, before we welcome on for a conversation. There's something so poignant about watching that video, and obviously the beautiful music that accompanies it of Misha Era, which we featured in a different capacity last week. But the video is just so moving, and I'm delighted now to welcome a friend, a colleague, a mentor, a musical genius in various different capacities, which we'll find out in just a second, and that is Mr. Fergus O'Carroll. Fergus, you're very welcome to DCB TV in all those capacities, and none least, of course, as the former musical director of Dublin Concert Band. But if there happens to be anybody that, for some whatever unknown reason, doesn't know who you are, introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background about who you are and what you do.
Good evening, Brendan. My name is Fergus. I'm from Waterford, and I'm a bandsman. I've been a bandsman my whole life. Started off in St. Patrick's Brass Band in Waterford. My dad was the conductor. I wouldn't necessarily advise that to any young players to have their dad as their conductor. And then I just the rest, as they say, is history. It was steps, and ended up in Dublin, and I've been here for more years than I care to remember, I suppose. Yeah, that's about it.
I'm gonna push you on this because that is absolutely not it. So obviously you've been a member of for a long time the National Symphony Orchestra. You're a faculty member of the woodwind brass and percussion of the Academy and head of that department as well at one point. Conductor, composer, arranger, chief bottle washer. It's fair to say you've done an awful lot. You have a varied musical life. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's one of the exciting things about being, I suppose, a big fish in a small pond. I did have many years ago. I had the opportunity to go to England. I was invited to come and do an audition for the Scottish National Symphony Orchestra. Bryden Thompson was the principal conductor of the National Symphony Orchestra at the time, and then he moved on to Scottish National, and he said to me, would you be interested in auditioning for the first horn job? And I thought about it for a very short time, and I knew that was the start of a journey. You start off in Scotland, maybe move to Wales, and then you might move to Birmingham, and then down to London, and into the rat race. And I decided in a matter of minutes that really that wasn't for me. And I've never been sorry. I've never regretted that decision. And I suppose staying in Ireland, it just afforded me so many opportunities. This is the big fish in a small pond. I got an opportunity to do pretty much everything in the musical business. Just looking at that video, I was thinking, when I look back now, there was a cameraman at one stage, and his lens was about that far from me. So you had all your musicians, you're the focus, right? You're the soloist. And then on top of all of the normal pressures that we experience as performing musicians, this guy with the lens is just there beside you. And I have to say, it's a bit like the Swan, where everything looks calm on top, but the feet are going like this underneath. And looking at that video, I haven't seen it for quite some time. That reminded me of all I could see was Swan's feet. That's what I thought of when I saw that.
There's something so poignant about that video, considering that, obviously the music is the epitome of things that we're going through at the minute. But then not only that, the videography, the content, that pan back and up of the concert hall, which was empty. The irony of that, considering where we are at the minute, and seeing ourselves move out of that is I suppose quite frightening and stark in one way. But with all of that said, how have you managed kind of life in lockdown, and have you kept music going and teaching?
Well, it's been really interesting, Brendan, because I've used this quotation many times since lockdown. But in so many ways, we've been teaching music, because I'm now a teacher, semi-retired, in that I only do a number of hours a week teaching for the Royal Irish Academy of Music. And I have to say, I'd recommend it to anybody, that concept of having full days off during the weekend. Yeah. It's brilliant, and I'm loving it. But we've been teaching the same way since the days of Mozart. And nothing has changed. Everything has been exactly the same. There's one-to-one lessons. So when we ended up in lockdown, I would have used Skype previously, and we were advised to use Zoom, something that I fought against. Why use Zoom? Skype works perfectly well. And then hearing that everybody was using Zoom, I thought, maybe am I missing something here? Maybe I should try this. So that was kind of a bit of a challenge to get into the whole kind of technology side of things, which I've never been afraid of previously, and I'm still not. So I got my students all on Zoom. And then I started thinking that there were so many things that we could do teaching that we've never embraced. So, for example, every one of my students, from the first years, the 6, 7, 8-year-olds, right up to the, I won't be rude, but over half a century students that I have, we all studied the most important 2.5 minutes from the 54-minute Tchaikovsky Symphony No. 5. And then obviously everybody knows this. That's the horn solo at the beginning of the second movement, yeah. So we edited out those 2.5 minutes from a full performance, and it was one that I had played in 10 years previously, pretty much to the day when I started the project. So we edited it out using a free online editing tool. So all the kids experienced audio editing, and then they all composed their own piece of music. All of my students composed their own piece of music, which we then put into, Sibelius. So they all did music notation with me. Mm-hmm. So we embraced the whole technology. We had no choice. We couldn't go into a room. Zoom, Skype, it doesn't matter what it is, even StreamYard, it doesn't have the same sound as if I was sitting in the room with you. So there are limitations. You can't define how well somebody is playing sound-wise, because it depends on which room they're in or what microphone they're using, etc., etc. So we took the other things, the things that we could control, and we tried to make those better. And I have to say, I really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the whole experience.
It's amazing. So I get a sense you're going to embrace some of the good and the positive stuff, and keep carrying that forward as you move forward.
Yeah, I think it's something that I've always had that in my mind. No matter what happens to you during life, um, my mom had a saying which I've lived by, and that is that no matter what you run up against, there's always another way, and it stood me extremely well, I have to say. But as far as the teaching is concerned, I won't be disappointed to get back into a room
Hmm.
with the students once the room is safe and the student is safe and I'm safe. But I have actually enjoyed. I found it very tiring, exhausting in actual fact, teaching on Zoom. It's really, really focused, but brilliant. Yeah, really,
It
really.
is. It's definitely a new form of engagement, and it requires, I suppose, certain procedures and practice because it is much more focused, and actually it's more attentive in terms of our listening and trying to marry that with our eyes. So yeah, no, I
Yeah,
absolutely.
and then there was the whole human side of things that a kid would come in for a lesson last October, and you'd spend the time with them during that lesson, and then they're gone. But now it became a situation where a big focus in that kid's week was their French horn lesson.
Yeah.
And one of the
Absolutely.
great things about it was a lot of them didn't have a lot more to do except practice. So I obviously pointed that out to them.
Yeah.
And we made great progress. And then we did a Zoom concert for all the grandparents, and we had 80 people in the concert, and they all played a piece of their own choice, and they all played their own composition. And then one of the kids, his dad is in music, he orchestrated this kid's piece. Chris is, I think he's 12.
Oh, wow.
12, 13. He orchestrated it for wind band, and I'm going to do it with the first opportunity I get. I'm going to do it with the junior wind band in the Royal Irish Academy of Music.
That's
So
amazing.
bringing things from there and to kind of informing the future from what we've
Yeah.
learned from the past, which is pretty good.
That is absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on to something else, and I'm going to circle back to
Yeah.
obviously one of the main reasons why you're here as the former member of Dublin Concert Band, but something else that you have been continuing to do during lockdown, and something that has come to you from a completely different angle from music, because as we were talking earlier on, your whole life is based around music, and then there's this other thing which is so important at the minute, and you've got the T-shirt on there. Talk to us a little bit about the blood bikes and the work that you're doing there.
So I suppose when you looked at the video of Misha Era, the trumpet player was Graham Hastings. The orchestra was the Irish Film Orchestra. It wasn't the Symphony Orchestra; it was the Irish Film Orchestra, and the trumpet was Graham Hastings. And Graham Hastings was a member of Blood Bikes. When I was still in the orchestra for many, many years, he's been a member of Blood Bikes. And he's often said to me, I think you'd enjoy it. I think you really would enjoy it. And when I retired, I had said to my wife, Antoinette, I had said many, many times, it's something I'm going to explore after I retire. So I did. Contacted Graham, how do I go about doing this? And so he filled me in, and I joined the group last December. And then when you join the group, then you have to go through orientation, and then the lockdown happened. You were allowed at that stage to ride a bike without a special advanced training for 6 months, but you had to say that you would get your advanced training within 6 months. And before that, before I even started advanced training, all the training stopped because of COVID-19. So at the moment, I'm a driver. I drive cars rather than bikes. But the work that they do it's amazing. They move blood samples. We've moved a lot of COVID-19 samples. Before laboratories were set up around the country, everything came to Dublin to the National Virus Lab, and we would meet other blood bike groups down the country and continue the journey up to Dublin with samples. I've had hundreds of samples in the car at one time. But a lot of people don't know the other side of work that we do. So if you take, for example, a kid with leukemia who would previously have had to travel to Crumlin Children's Hospital once a week for blood tests, the parents have been trained in how to take a blood sample, and we will go to that kid's house and collect the sample and bring it to Crumlin. So there's no waiting. The kid stays at home. And then an amazing service that we offer is distributing, and it doesn't matter whether it's from a donor to the child, or whether we're supplying it on to somebody else. We work with the Human Breast Milk Bank in Enniskillen, transporting human breast milk. And this is for babies who are prematurely born in hospital, giving these kids the best chance of life. So it's fantastic. We don't think about any of that. You know, funnily enough, I think we did a pre-test earlier on when I was saying to you, I would arrive and work in the Symphony Orchestra and I would see that we're doing Fingal's Cave. And I'd go, oh God, no, not again. I played Fingal's Cave hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of times. It was just too much. We don't question what we carry in the cars. We just know that it's good. What we're doing is good, and we're saving the HSE literally hundreds of thousands of euros every year, because anything that we transport, we work after hours on Monday to Friday, and then we work all weekends. So up until this point, until blood bikes, everything was transported by taxis. So it was all paid for. So it's really, really well worthwhile charity. And I know, of course, at some stage in the near future, I'll be talking to the Dublin Concert Band about doing something for blood bikes. Of course, we'll have this interaction as we've done with so many other groups and so many other bands and worthwhile causes. Let's say.
It really is, absolutely is. And I'm just going to add in a comment there from Hazel. Amazing work. Yeah,
I've never worked a day in my life, Brendan, because it's not work when you enjoy what you're doing, and that is absolutely true. It really isn't. It's so worthwhile, and it doesn't take an awful lot of time. I do. At the moment, we have so many volunteers. We've got a waiting list. We've got 136 volunteers, and we've got a waiting list of more than that, of people wanting to come in, but we can't take them in. We're kind of limited to 2 shifts a month.
Okay.
Which might be from 7 o'clock in the evening until 3 o'clock in the morning, or 6 o'clock in the morning, or whatever. So we're overstaffed. But I've become a member of the social media team as well. So I'm writing Facebook posts and LinkedIn posts and things like that. So it really is interesting and worthwhile. That's
amazing.
It's so worthwhile.
And just to give us some, I suppose, to really show the impact on this, you're giving me some figures when we were talking around in terms of comparison of what you did last year and then actually what you've done during COVID. Just give us an idea of what that is a comparison.
Well, I was talking to Graham Hastings earlier on today because he brought me out on a training session for this advanced riding, motorcycle riding. And Graham was telling me that we're not even halfway through the year yet, but for the first half of this year, we have done more runs down the country. So meeting a blood bikes group from Cork, or delivering breast milk to a blood bike group going to Kilkenny or whatever else. And we've done more in the first half of this year than we did in the whole of last year. We've done something like 750 up to this point, country runs, we call them. And we did 600 and something in the whole of last year.
That's amazing. Yeah, and congratulations and thank you to not only yourself but everybody in blood bikes and all the work you do. It's largely kind of behind the scenes. People don't think about it, but it is making obviously such a massive impact on the people that you're touching, and obviously then the HSE as well. So amazing, truly amazing.
Yeah. And it's got a uniform. I've always had a uniform my whole career. Everything I've done has had a uniform.
Show us the hat.
Oh, okay. There you go.
There you go.
This
is a really good segue and a good pivot actually, because another uniform which we can see is in a picture of you, as far as I'm aware, in the background up on that wall. Give us a sense of that. I can hear a laugh in the background.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, it's not the first time Antoinette has laughed at me. No, it won't be the last.
Give us the backstory to this.
That picture is me in my St. James's Brass and Reed Band uniform, because I was musical director of St. James's Brass and Reed Band from 1987 until 1998.
Okay.
And then it was 2003, I think I joined DCB until 2018. So it was a good spell. I've been very, very lucky in that everything that I've done, there've been really long segments, whether it be with Dublin Symphony Orchestra, we had, again, it was like DCB 15 years with Dublin Symphony Orchestra. Oh my goodness!
So there we are.
Yeah.
There you are. Sorry, in 2003. And can you name the place and the event?
I'm gonna guess Clonakilty.
Correct. And there's a video that accompanies this as well.
Oh dear!
But I'm not going to show that now. If we're going to save that for the after show.
Okay.
It's a fabulous video.
Okay.
And I think Dahi O'Shea introduces it. I'm assuming it's for TG Car or whatever the precursor that was.
Right.
I'm going to go through some photos just and see if you can remember the date in the event and some memories.
That's not too long ago. I'm wondering, might that be in France?
No, funny enough, there's a very strong Clonakilty theme running through this evening. That's Clonakilty on the street. So it's a square you can see in the background.
Right. Okay.
And that is 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, there you are. And there's a winning picture there.
Yeah, that would have been later than 2012 because that suit is not that old. So that's the only way I could put a date on that.
Yeah, so that's in Navan. That was the Nationals, and that was 2016.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
And this is a lovely picture of the
and
band.
That's is it Pearse Park in Dublin?
St Enda's.
St Enda's Park, yeah. And we did a Sunday afternoon concert.
And that was for the 1916 centenary. Amazing picture. And I'm going to come to this chap in a second with another picture. Another winning moment. You can probably guess because you're on a train.
That's definitely Clonakilty after.
Exactly.
I'm looking at how slim I am in that photograph. And again, wearing a uniform, as always.
As always, yeah. And here's the picture that I'm talking about. So obviously as a French horn player, but this chap here as well. A great relationship between yourself and himself through the band as well.
Yeah, I think that's in the Phoenix Park. What's it called?
In Farmley.
Farmley. And that's my son sitting beside me. And somebody else was conducting that day, but they were kind of short of French horn players, so they allowed me to play, if I remember correctly.
Correct. So that's back in 2015. And maybe somebody who's watching at home, maybe Derek or somebody can confirm if that was 2015 would have either been myself, I assume, or John at that stage.
Yeah.
But I do remember a Farmley gig where you rocked up with a French horn kindly for me and played a little bit of French horn where I was conducting. So it could have been that one. And I think that you might have mentioned this already.
That's definitely in La Valmer in southern France. That was a great trip. That was a fantastic trip. And really, really well organized, great audiences and great performances. Do you know, my biggest memory of that trip was playing by the beach midday. I have no idea what day of the week was, but it was absolutely boiling on the French Riviera by the beach at midday. It was fantastic. And the band were so happy and so joyous. This is the thing about community bands. Everybody's there because they want to be there. And it's generally a sense of enjoyment and brilliant. I've loved community bands my whole life. And yeah.
Real
brilliant.
Sense of togetherness. And I think from the same trip.
That's from the same trip, and I can actually see the winery. Unfortunately, I can't taste the wine right now, but I can see the winery. And I think we sampled more than just by the nose. We sampled a lot more than that shortly after that, as I remember. I don't remember a lot about it, but it was a good day. A good DCB day.
This is a bit of a milestone, not only for you, but for the band actually as well. There you are in the middle.
In the band room.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the occasion, believe it or not.
So this was the official last trip to the basement, if you like, in 2018 for yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So I assume this would have been the last rehearsal before the last gig, before you put the baton down, essentially.
Oh yeah, I can see where I am now. That insignificant head down there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That must have been just before that concert in the National Concert Hall, which was a great concert. It was a great concert. What a way! What a way to leave! What a way to
Well,
kind
there you
of go.
are.
Yeah, yeah,
There
brilliant.
it is there.
And that picture that I'm holding in my hand there, if you look, it's up on my wall. There, up in the corner.
Oh, there it
See
is.
it up in the corner. It's on my
Mm,
wall.
amazing. I remember, if obviously it doesn't show you the full picture of where people were, but I was sat somewhere down here, if you can see where my mouse is going.
I
Uh,
remember exactly where you were sat, Brendan. There's the guy. There's the guy that's taken over after me. How am I doing? Is my trousers fitting? That was the most important thing about being a conductor. You know, somebody said to me once that your trousers fits you well at the back.
True story. True,
Yeah, it
true
is.
story. I'm still trying to grow into all of my trousers.
I've
But
grown
anyway,
out of a few of mine, I can tell you.
but but I do remember being, and typically as an audience member, none of us kind of like to be that close to any ensemble play. But I really was hoping to kind of, I suppose, be kind of middle and center and take it all in. And you know what? I had the most fabulous and most impactful experience as an audience member, seeing so many friends, so many colleagues, musicians that I know so well, seeing yourself and the poignancy, again, I'll use that word, of the event. The atmosphere and the whole flow of the event was absolutely electric. It was certainly for me one of the most, from an audience member point of view, gratifying and enjoyable and impactful concert band, wind band concerts that I've ever enjoyed in Ireland, and possibly ever, from being honest. It was absolutely amazing.
You know, there's a thing about the whole music world is that all organizations, they have a cyclical nature. You go through a period and then there's a change, and they need a change. Somebody once said to me that if you're a musical director of any group, and I've done orchestras, choirs, and bands, when you bring them to the zenith, if that takes you 10 years, you better be well gone before another 10 years. So they're cyclical in nature.
Mm.
And as I said, I was very, very lucky to get 15 years of what I consider to be a really special time in my life, a special association with my life, and to be able to leave at the end of the time the best of friends with everybody.
Mm.
And that's really special. I was talking earlier on about the cameraman on the stage for Misha Era, and the camera's gone this far about, well, you were the camera for me on that gig. He's over there over my right shoulder.
It was purely spectator sport for me, and it was
Yeah.
most enjoyable.
But I have
Yeah.
to say, Brendan, and I'm not, this is not platitudes in any way, I have to say that I was absolutely delighted because we had an association with DCB together. When I have a bad habit of bringing people that are at least as good as me in as assistants. And I had done that many, many years previously with you. And I was absolutely thrilled that the band chose you as my successor, because I knew it was in good hands. You know, in a community band, it's not just the musician who's out in front. It's the person who handles the personalities, the person who makes the weakest player in the band feel as important to the band as the strongest player in the band. There's so many different things. It's not about the perfect performance. It's about the perfect ensemble. And that entails more than just music. That entails personalities. It entails cohesion. There's so many things. And I knew you were the right person for that, following on from me. So I was absolutely thrilled.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you. And we did speak about this. You know, it as I said to everybody, and I've said this on DCBtv, for me it was a kind of a coming home of ways, because and I've already called you mentor, but the mentorship that I received within that framework, which is fair to say is largely down to yourself, and something for anybody that is watching from other bands or community groups, this is really something to think about. That if you can give access, a platform, to somebody as a musician or an artist to help engage with others, it's only going to feed back into you and allow you to develop this reciprocal relationship that should, in kind of symbiosis, develop in everybody. And I'm delighted to say that we as far as I remember, almost all the time, I don't remember any issues between us, but there was a great cohesion about the ensemble, about the committee, about the organization, and that's really important, I think, for community groups. In fact, never more important than it is right now for people to have that sense of cohesion, and that was entirely down to you in terms of that framework.
And it's also respect. Cohesion and respect. I mean, I had respect for, as I said, the weakest member of the band. There's an old saying that I love a parade. I have to because I'm in the band. Right? And I remember somebody saying once, cancelling a rehearsal coming up to Christmas in a previous group that I was with. And I objected from the point of view that not only has the member to be there for the band, but the band has to be there for the member. Mm. It's a two-way street. And I think that was a very, there were times in DCB when it wasn't so healthy, but certainly by the time that I left, and during an awful lot of the time that I was there, it was very healthy relationship, those two things, the band for the player and the player for the band. I remember doing DCB rehearsals as a guest many years ago, playing the trumpet on the conductor stand, using my left hand. Horn players use their left hand, funnily enough, whereas all the other brass players with valved instruments use their right hands. And I would play the trumpet part with my left hand, badly I might add, while I was conducting with my other hand. And it's probably one of the most stupid things that I ever did, because if I had thought about it properly, without conducting, it would have been a brilliant opportunity for people just to listen to what was going on in the room, rather than trying to follow a stick, which is one of the most important things as far as I'm concerned. You can look at best conductors in the world, and they're this and they're. I've done a Mahler symphony, Bruckner symphonies, a whole season of Bruckner symphonies with a conductor, and all he did was this. Fantastic. Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. There was no. There was none of that. Yeah. And it was just, he inspired people. Brilliant.
Yeah, amazing. I suppose just to leave the conversation of DCB and obviously being that mentor for me when I was the assistant, one of the things that still sits in my memory very, very vividly and strongly is, I think, within the first month where we sat in that room downstairs in North Great George Street in the basement, and you said, you have to remember that bands like DCB are fragile. And as long as you always bear that in mind, you'll always treat it with the respect that's due. And it's a really good point. At any stage, anything could change. My goodness, COVID-19 has kind of proved the point. So we have to always, no matter if we're a musician, if we're a conductor, if we're in the committee, if we're a volunteer, we have to treat it with such care, such respect, and just the utmost sense of togetherness and cohesion and bringing people together. So that nugget still stays with me. In fact, I use it on the teaching course. So you get some small commission for that. Okay. on that one.
It's been one of my pleasures to go back and actually play with the band since then, because I played in the RTE studios when we did a live broadcast. Was it 18 months ago, something like that? A year ago?
I think some of the video and the footage that has you in it, it's lovely to see your participation in that. And actually, it's going to be a video that we're going to feature in the future with DCBtv. I'm going to just add in a few comments here. Hannah, Brendan, you need to conduct while playing the tuba. No?
Don't let him play tuba, please. Don't let him play tuba.
Don't. I in the Garda band, we used to call it holding the tuba, because that's all I could do, not necessarily play it.
Yeah, and I blame myself for that, Brendan. If you'll excuse me, I blame me because I was on the audition panel that when you got the job, if I remember correctly.
Correct. And now we're getting really to the crux of the issue. I have tried conducting from a drum kit unsuccessfully, never to be done ever again. And another friend of yours and mine as well. Good to see you tuning in, Liam. Well done, Fergus and Brendan.
Another great horn player and conductor, I have to say. Well.
Yeah, fabulous. Great to see you there, Liam. Before we go, just very briefly, you have a dog with a blog. Tell us about that.
Brinkley. Where's Brinkley? He's here. Is he here somewhere? I started the blog some time ago, and basically the blog is we got Brinkley just at the lockdown.
Okay.
So this was a wonderful excuse to get out of the house, and so we started telling Brinkley's story. And Brinkley's story basically was how to train your humans. And he's been, in some ways, really unsuccessful at it. And the whole blog is written from Brinkley's point of view. And it really is a bit of fun. And it's kind of takes the mickey out of myself. And here's Brinkley just coming in to say hello.
Oh, my goodness, here we go.
Brinkley, there he is. He doesn't want to stay. No, he doesn't want to say. Say hello, Brinkley. No, that's him. Anyway, he's a Cocker Spaniel, and he's the most lovable little blackguard. And he hates the French. There's a video somewhere of me playing the French horn, and I eventually cracked up playing. I couldn't keep playing because he was howling so much in the background. I'll share it with you if you want to take the mickey out of me in future. You can have it in your armory.
So can we access that? Is that on the net? What's the web address?
It's if you do a search for Brinkley's blog in Facebook, then you can find it. And Brinkley was the dog that Tom Hanks had in the film You've Got Mail.
Oh yes, oh very good.
Brinkley.
Brilliant.
And I'd like any DCB members, if they want to support Brinkley in this, please like and share, because the 5 views that we get every few days when I do this at the moment, they're getting really, really tired of it. So we'd like to have a few more people join us. Right, it doesn't matter. It's a bit of fun. It brought us through the whole lockdown thing with a great laugh and a great smile. It's a bit of fun.
It's amazing. It's truly hilarious. And you don't have to be a pet owner, an animal lover, a dog owner to enjoy it. It's actually just good fun. So well done on that.
Thank you.
And well done on everything from an amazing legacy with the Dublin Concert Band. An even more amazing legacy as French horn player, conductor, composer, arranger, everything else that you've done. And now the amazing work that you're doing with Blood Bikes. It's just truly phenomenal. So thank you for all of that. For myself and everybody in DCB and everybody that's watching online in DCBtv. We thought it was appropriate to finish with a little bit because there is a recurring Clonakilty theme here going. So we're going to feature the Dublin Concert Band playing the Chit Chat Polka, and you've got your tails on. And I think there's even an appropriate interjection from Eileen, and a huge shout out, obviously, to Clonakilty, who like many other competitions have had to go into shutdown, and we really do miss the yearly trip down to Clonakilty, the spirit and the overall camaraderie of the festival. So yeah. A big shout out to all of them. But finally, Fergus, from all of us and to you, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brendan. Thank you for asking me on. And it's great to continue this association with the Dublin Concert Band.
So here we go with Chit Chat Polka.
Silence, please.
There we are. That was the Dublin Concert Band down in Clonakilty in the band championships under the baton of the then musical director of the band, Mr. Fergus O'Carroll. And it was an absolute pleasure to have him join us here on DCBtv for episode 6 and hear all of that amazing work that he's done in music and the amazing work that he continues to do through Blood Bikes as well. So that's it for episode 6. A huge thank you to all of our guests tonight, and obviously a thank you to the Dublin Concert Band for 2 brilliant performances of the 3rd and 4th movement of Lydian Suite number 2. Unfortunately, that is it for a couple of weeks. We're going to take a little break, or more importantly, I'm going to take a little break for a little while. Thank you very much for joining us on our Thursday weekly episode and enjoying some of the music and the chat from the Dublin Concert Band. When we return, we're going to have some exciting news about our Child Vision fundraiser that's going to be happening later on this year, as well as some more virtual performances and conversation with the band. Hopefully, at that stage, we might even do some live broadcasts from some of our rehearsals and potentially performances as well. So for now, please take care of yourself, stay happy, healthy, and well, and we look forward to welcoming you again on DCBtv sometime in the future.